I live in a quiet, older suburb just outside a small town. Not much ever happens here, which is how I like it. I work from home, and most nights I'll go for a walk around 11 or midnight. The streets are always empty by then. Just a few porch lights glowing, dogs barking behind fences, sprinklers clicking on. Peaceful. Last summer, on one of those warm, sticky nights, I left the house a little before midnight. The moon was out, the crickets loud. I took my usual route down Maple Avenue, past the closed bakery, then around the corner where the sidewalk gets patchy and the streetlights are farther apart. I remember thinking I should probably turn back sooner than usual. I had a weird feeling in my stomach, like nerves before a job interview. But I kept walking. Habit, I guess. About 3 blocks from my house, I passed a bus stop. It's one of those little glass shelters with an overhead light. There was a man sitting inside, slouched over, wearing a gray hoodie and a faded red ball cap. Nothing unusual, maybe. Someone waiting for a late ride, though buses don't run past 10. I nodded at him politely. He didn't move, just stared straight ahead. I kept walking. About half a block later, I looked back. He was standing now, outside the shelter, facing me. Still didn't think much of it. I mean, maybe he was stretching, or heading off somewhere, but I picked up my pace a little. Not running, just brisk. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Behind me, matching mine. I stopped walking. The footsteps stopped too. My mouth went dry. I turned around slowly. He was standing still under the nearest streetlight. Hands in his hoodie pocket, cap shadowing his face. We just stood there, looking at each other across maybe 30 feet of cracked sidewalk. "Hey," I called, trying to sound casual. "You okay?" No answer. I turned and started walking again. Quicker this time, not running, not yet. After maybe 10 steps, I heard it again, his footsteps, faster now, gaining on me. I broke into a full run, heart pounding, lungs burning. Didn't look back, just sprinted the last 2 blocks to my street. When I turned onto my block, I risked a glance behind me. He was gone. I slowed down when I reached my porch, tried to calm myself. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my keys, had to fumble to pick them up. Got inside, locked the door, and went straight to the front window. The street was empty. Nothing, no one. I barely slept that night the next day. I convinced myself I'd imagined it, just someone out walking. Maybe I scared him as much as he scared me. I didn't tell anyone. Felt stupid. But a week later, around the same time midnighty, was coming back from the 7-Eleven. Took a different route this time. Safer, more well-lit. As I neared my house, I noticed something on the sidewalk across the street, a red ball cap, just sitting there, no one around. Stared at it for a long time before going inside. I haven't walked at night since. But here's the thing that really keeps me up. A couple nights ago, I came home late from a friend's place. It was just after 1 a.m. I parked in my driveway and got out of the car, and I swear to God, as I walked up the steps, I saw someone standing under the streetlight at the corner. Gray hoodie, red cap, not moving, just watching. I blinked, and he was gone. Or maybe he never was there at all. But now, every night, I close all the curtains, double-check every lock, and sometimes, in the early hours of the morning, I think I hear footsteps outside my window, slow, measured, like he's waiting for me to come walking by again. A few years ago, I moved into a duplex on a quiet street in Milwaukee. I was 24, just out of college, and working late shifts at a nearby hospital. My schedule was upside down, sleep during the day, up all night. The duplex was old, but cozy. My unit was the bottom floor, with a separate entrance and a small backyard. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. One night, after a 12-hour shift, I got home around 1:30 a.m. I parked, unlocked my front door, and stepped inside. I remember the house was oddly warm. I figured my roommate had cranked the heat again. It's annoying, but not surprising. I kicked off my shoes, dumped my bag by the door, and headed for the kitchen. I noticed the light was on in the hallway. My roommates, Door was closed, but there was this faint smell, something like smoke. I froze, sniffed again. Not fire smoke, more like a cigarette. Now, my roommate didn't smoke. Neither did I, and we didn't allow it in the house. I walked down the hall, trying not to make a sound. Stopped outside his door. Listened, nothing. I knocked, quiet at first, then louder. "Hey, you up?" No answer. I pushed the door open. Empty room, lights off. Bed made. Like no one had been there all day. That's when I realized something else. His keys weren't on the hook. His shoes weren't by the door, and the backpack he always left on the couch. Gone. My stomach turned. I walked back out and checked the front door. Locked. Deadbolt turned. Then it hit me when I came in. I never locked it behind me. I live in a 2-unit house. The upstairs tenant had moved out the week before. The landlord told me he'd be showing the place soon. Suddenly, the house felt wrong. I went to the living room and noticed something I hadn't before. The back sliding door barely open. Not wide, just enough. It led to the small yard, surrounded by a wooden fence. I never left it unlocked. I grabbed the biggest kitchen knife I owned and started checking every room. Closet, bathroom, laundry, even under the couch. Nothing. No sign of anyone. But that smell cigarette smoke was still faintly there. And then I remembered something else. When I walked in, the hall light was on. I always turn it off before I leave. I told myself maybe my roommate had been home earlier and forgot to lock up. I texted him, no response. I stayed up all night, sitting in the kitchen with my back to the wall, staring at the hallway. Nothing happened. He finally texted back around 8 a.m., said he'd been at his girlfriend's place since yesterday, hadn't been home at all. I asked if he'd stop by, maybe just to grab something. He said no. Not once I didn't tell him. What happened? I didn't want to sound paranoid. A few days later, I was coming home around the same time, almost 2 a.m. this time. I noticed something strange the second I pulled into the driveway. The upstairs window, the one above mine, was lit. Now remember, that unit was supposed to be vacant. The landlord hadn't said anything about new tenants yet. I parked and just sat there, watching the window. After about a minute, the light turned off. I got out of my car and stared up at the house. Everything was quiet. It's too quiet. I went inside, locked everything tight, and stayed up again. The next morning, I called the landlord, asked if someone had moved in upstairs. He said no. Still empty. Still showing it. In fact, he had a viewing that afternoon and wanted to stop by to prep the place. I told him about the light. He sounded concerned, said he'd check it out and let me know. That afternoon, he texted me, "You're right, back door was unlocked upstairs. No sign of break-in, but someone might have been squatting. Change the locks just in case." I tried to let it go, but then, a week later, I was getting ready for work, around 10 p.m., stepped out back to take the trash out, and I saw something in the dirt next to the fence. Footprints, not mine. Not my roommates. Larger. Heavier. Leading from the gate to the side of the house. I followed them around the corner. Heart, THUDD. Thing. They stopped right under my bedroom window. Just ... no. Return trail. I didn't sleep in my room that night. A few days after that, I came home to find the lock on the back door looked scratched. Not broken. Just tampered with. Like someone had tried to pick it again. I didn't call the cops. I didn't know what to say. Nothing had been taken. Nothing happened. But I started locking my bedroom door at night. Started leaving the light on in the hallway. Kept the knife by my bed. It's been months since the last incident. I eventually moved out, but sometimes late at night, I wake up from this recurring dream. I'm lying in bed, unable to move, and there's someone standing in the hallway. Right outside my door, just breathing, slow and steady. And when I finally manage to get up and open the door, there's no one there, but the hallway smells like cigarette smoke. About a year ago, I was driving home from my girlfriend's place. It was late, almost 1 a.m. The highway was nearly empty. I live in a rural area with long stretches of nothing between towns. just gas stations, fields, and the occasional flicker of a porch light miles off the road. I took the back roads like I always do. It's a bit longer, but I like the quiet. There's a spot where the road dips into a low valley, no service. No lights, no houses, just cornfields and an old, rundown barn I've seen 100 times. That night I noticed a truck behind me as I turned onto the valley road. Big old thing, probably a late 90s Ford or Chevy. Headlights high and bright. It came up on me fast, too close for comfort.
At first.
I slowed down a bit, hoping they'd pass. They didn't. They just stayed glued to my bumper, too close. I tapped my brakes lightly just enough to signal. Still, they stayed there. At this point, I was starting to get uncomfortable. I figured maybe I should pull over and let them go around. But there's nowhere to stop safely on that stretch. Ditches on both sides, and the next crossroad was a few miles away. I sped up a little, hoping to create some space. They matched me exactly. Every turn, every bend, they followed. I told myself it was probably nothing. Just a coincidence. A local on their way home. Still, my hands were tight on the wheel. That's when they flashed their high beams. Once, then again, then they started. Honking long, drawn-out blasts. Now, I was scared. I didn't want to stop, not in the middle of nowhere, so I kept driving, faster than I should have on that road. The truck stayed with me, close enough that I couldn't even see their headlights anymore. Just this massive shadow looming in my rear view. I finally reached a small side road and took a hard right tire, squealing. The truck followed. I floored it, hoping to lose them in the dark. This road curved through a patch of forest, and I knew it led back to the main highway if I stayed on it. I could call for help once I got signal again, but the truck kept coming. No matter how fast I went, they were right there, and then they turned off their headlights. No lights, just the sound of their engine, chasing me through the trees. I don't know how I didn't crash. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the wheel. Finally, I saw the sign for the highway. I blew through the stop sign and launched onto the on-ramp without even checking for traffic. When I looked behind me, nothing, no truck. I pulled onto the shoulder and sat there for a long time, just breathing. Eventually, I made it home. Parked in the garage, locked the doors behind me, checked every window twice. For the next few days, I couldn't shake it. I kept seeing those headlights in my mirror, hearing that horn. But I tried to move on, told myself it was some jerk messing around. A rural prank, maybe. Nothing more. Until 3 nights later, I was at the gas station near my house, filling up around midnight. There were only 2 pumps, and I was the only one there then. I heard it. A low engine rumble pulling into the lot. I turned around. Same truck. I recognized the dent in the front bumper. The mismatched passenger side mirror. They pulled in slowly. Stopped across from me. Didn't get out. Just sat there, engine idling. I stared. Stayed waiting for something, anything. They didn't move. No lights. No sound. I finished pumping gas as fast as I could, heart racing. When I got into my car, I tried not to look over. But I caught a glimpse. The windows were tinted too dark to see in clearly, but I swear I saw someone leaning forward, watching me. I peeled out of there. They didn't follow this time. But the next night, I noticed tire tracks in the gravel outside my house. Fresh ones, brighter than my car's. I live at the end of a dead-end road. No one drives out here by accident, I told. The police filed a report. They said they'd patrol the area, but there wasn't much they could do without a plate number or a clear threat. And then it stopped. No more sightings, no more tire tracks. For a while, I convinced myself it was over, until last week I came out to my car in the morning. It had rained overnight, and the windshield was streaked with water. But in the middle of it, perfectly clean, it was a handprint. Palm and 5 fingers, large, too large to be mine. Right on the driver's side and wedged into my windshield wiper, a cigarette butt. I don't smoke. I checked the cameras. I'd put up outside after the first incident. They didn't catch anything, just black footage from 2:13 to 4:47. A.M. Dead zone. like someone knew how to avoid them. I don't know who it was, or what they wanted. But now, every time I drive at night, I check my mirrors constantly, waiting to see those headlights again, waiting to hear that horn.